Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. We are really glad you're here.
It's great to be back.
Today, we are going to talk about a feeling that I think every single person listening right now has felt.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably in the last week, maybe even in the last hour. Hell, maybe you're feeling it right now about the very thing you're supposed to be doing while you're listening to this.
It's arguably one of the most universal and yet one of the most shameful human experiences, you know?
It really is. So
Okay.
let's just set the scene. Picture this. You're sitting at your desk, or I don't know, maybe you're standing in your kitchen.
Right.
And you have a task to do. It's on your to-do list. It's just staring at you.
It's almost taunting you.
Exactly. And you know you need to do it. You even want the result of doing it. You care about it. But you find yourself physically unable to make your body move to start.
Freeze.
The freeze.
Yeah.
You just, you stop. It's like your entire operating system has crashed. And then 10 minutes later, you find yourself scrolling through social media or reorganizing your spice rack alphabetically, which suddenly seems critical.
Or suddenly deciding that now is the absolute most important time to research the history of the Roman Empire.
Right. And while you're doing that completely unrelated thing, you feel absolutely terrible about it.
And that's the classic procrastination loop, isn't it? The
No.
distraction followed immediately by this heavy dose of guilt.
Immense guilt. We tell ourselves, I'm just lazy. I need to get my act together.
I just need more discipline.
I need a better planner. I need to drink more coffee. I think we've all been there thinking if we just bought the right Moleskine notebook or downloaded the right app, this would all just stop.
The stationary solution, it rarely works, unfortunately.
It never works. But today, we are diving into a stack of research and sources that suggest that entire narrative, the whole I'm lazy story we tell ourselves, is completely wrong.
Completely wrong. In fact, calling it laziness is, from a biological standpoint, just inaccurate. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what is actually happening in your brain.
Okay, so we are digging into what the sources call the psychology of persistent procrastination. And the mission for this deep dive is pretty simple, but it might just change your life.
It's a big claim, but I think it holds up.
We want to debunk this myth that you are lazy, and we want to hand you a toolkit to actually get unstuck. Because if you're stuck, the sources suggest it's not because you're broken.
Right. And if there is one single thing I want everyone to take away from our deep dive today, it's this really provocative idea.
Okay.
Procrastination is not a flaw in your work ethic. It is not a time management issue.
Which is what everyone thinks it is.
Everyone. But it's not. It is an issue of emotional regulation.
Emotional regulation. That sounds heavy. It sounds a bit like therapy talk.
It is a bit heavy, I suppose, but it's actually very scientific. It all comes down to how your brain processes a threat.
So wait, you're saying we aren't avoiding the work. We're avoiding the feelings that the work brings up.
That is it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is where we have to start. We have to separate the behavior from the character judgment.
Okay.
Because for most of human history, or at least our recent cultural history, we've treated procrastination as a moral failing. You know, sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins.
Right. If you don't do the work, you are a bad person. Or at least a weak person. You lack grit or hustle or whatever the buzzword is this.
Precisely. But the research shows, and this is so fascinating, that high performers, people who are incredibly driven, intelligent, capable, they often struggle with procrastination more than people who are, naturally more laid back.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because I think for a lot of us, especially busy adults who are juggling careers and families and maybe a side hustle, the default setting is just self-blame. We look at our uncompleted tasks and we label ourselves lazy. But the sources make a really critical distinction here between laziness and procrastination. What is the actual difference? Because from the outside, they look exactly the same. The work isn't getting done.
They look identical, but the internal experience is the polar opposite. So let's just look at the definitions. Laziness, by definition, is an unwillingness to act. It's an apathy.
Okay, so you don't care.
You don't care. If you are truly lazy, you generally don't feel bad that you aren't doing the thing. You're fine with it. You're sitting on the couch, you know the dishes need to be done, and you just decide, I don't want to, and you feel fine.
Right, there's no guilt. You're just chilling. It's a conscious choice. I am choosing leisure.
Exactly. It's a valid choice. But procrastination, Procrastination is an active struggle. It's the inability to act despite wanting to.
The inability, that's the key word.
That's the word. You are sitting there agonizing over the task. You are stressed about not doing it. That anxiety proves you aren't lazy. If you were lazy, you wouldn't be stressed. You'd be happy.
That is actually a huge relief to hear. I think a lot of listeners probably just exhaled. So the fact that I feel terrible about not writing that report, that means I'm not lazy.
It means you care. And that's the irony, Often the people who struggle the most with procrastination are the ones who care the most about the quality of their work.
So the caring is actually part of the problem. It's not a lack of caring.
It's the fuel for the problem.
Okay, so if it's not laziness, what is actually happening in the brain? Because it feels like a physical block. Why does a simple task like sending an email or making a quick phone call suddenly feel like climbing Mount Everest?
This brings us to a concept that research calls emotional heaviness.
Emotional heaviness. I like that term. It feels accurate, but what gives a task weight?
Think about a task you've been putting off. On paper, let's say it's email client X regarding the delay.
Oh, I'm already feeling anxious just hearing that.
Right. Physically, that takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just typing. But emotionally, that task has weight because it carries risk.
Because it's not just an email. It's what if they yell at me, or I haven't talked to them in 3 weeks, they're going to be mad, or I don't have a good excuse for the delay.
Precisely. The task becomes a carrier for all these other emotions. Dread, anxiety, boredom, insecurity, fear of conflict. So when you look at that item on your to-do list, your brain, specifically a part called the amygdala.
The lizard brain.
The lizard brain, exactly. The ancient part of the brain responsible for threat detection. It doesn't see type words. It sees social threat. It sees potential conflict.
And the amygdala is the fight or flight center, so it's not logical.
Not at all. It's purely primal. So your amygdala screams, danger, don't go there. That email is a saber-toothed tiger. And your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that knows you should send the email, the part that understands logic and time, it gets hijacked. This is literally called an amygdala hijack.
So my rational brain is saying, dude, it's just an email. And the lizard brain is saying, it will kill us. Run.
Yes. And your brain, the primary job, is to protect you from pain, from threat. So it says, whoa, that email looks like emotional pain. Let's not go there. Let's go watch a cat video instead. That's safe. That gives me a little hit of dopamine. That soothes the beast.
So procrastination is basically a defense mechanism.
It is a protection mechanism. You are protecting yourself from the negative emotions associated with the task. The source material calls it prioritizing short-term mood repair over long-term goals.
Short-term mood repair. That hits home. I feel anxious about this task, so I will do something else to make the anxiety go away right now, even if it makes everything 10 times worse tomorrow.
Exactly. It's borrowing happiness from your future self to pay for relief today. And the interest rate on that loan is incredibly high.
That connects to the other concept we saw in the notes, which is mental messiness. I feel like this is my life. Can we talk about mental messiness?
We have to.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the heaviness isn't about fear, it's just about confusion. Mental messiness refers to the cognitive load of a task.
The what now?
The cognitive load. It's when a task isn't clearly defined, so your brain doesn't know where to grab the handle. It doesn't know where to start.
It's like looking at a tangled ball of yarn. Or when you take your headphones out of your pocket and they're in a perfect impossible knot. You just stare at it and think, I can't deal with this right now.
Yes, that is a perfect analogy. If I tell you to clean the garage, that is a mentally messy task.
Well, that's my nightmare task.
Right. Because where do you start? The boxes.
Yeah.
The sweeping.
Yeah.
The recycling. What do you do with those old paint cans you don't know how to dispose of legally? It requires a lot of executive function just to figure out the first step. That decision-making burns energy. It actually burns glucose in your brain.
I think we really underestimate how expensive decision-making is for the brain. We treat it like it's free, but it drains the battery like nothing else.
It is incredibly expensive. And if you're already tired or stressed, or it's 4 p.m. on a Friday, your brain looks at that messy, task-clean garage and says, nope, too expensive, too many calories required to figure this out. Let's do something simple instead. Let's check email again.
Yeah, let's refresh the inbox for the 15th time. That feels productive.
It gives you the illusion of productivity without the cognitive cost.
It's so interesting because I think we often assume that smart, capable people shouldn't have this problem. Like, if you run a business or manage a team, you should be able to figure out how to clean the garage or write the proposal.
But that's exactly why high-performing people struggle so much. They often have the most complex, ambiguous tasks. They aren't doing widget stamping work where the next step is obvious.
They're doing creative, strategic, ambiguous work.
And ambiguous work is inherently messy. And it's usually heavy because the stakes are high. Your reputation is on the line. Money is on the line.
So the more you care and the more complex the work, the more likely you are to get stuck in this freeze state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The higher the cognitive load and the emotional weight, the higher the resistance to starting.
Okay, so we've established that we aren't lazy. We are either emotionally blocked or mentally cluttered. But let's get specific. The source material outlines what they call the 4 horsemen of procrastination.
A bit dramatic, but it fits.
I think so too. These are the specific root causes. And I think just identifying which one is attacking you is half the battle.
It really is. It's like a diagnosis. Once you can name the monster, you can actually fight it. Or at least you stop letting it sneak up on you from behind.
Let's start with the first one, the big one. Fear of failure.
This is the most common one for any kind of creative work or anything where your performance is being judged. Writing, coding, public speaking, pitching a new client.
And this isn't just a simple fear of, I hope I don't get an F on my test.
Right.
It goes a lot deeper than that.
Oh, much deeper. It's an identity issue.
Yeah.
If you procrastinate on starting a project, it's often because you are terrified that the final result won't be good enough. And if the result isn't good enough, what does that say about you?
Right. It's not, this report is bad. It's, I am bad.
Exactly. It's a protection of self-worth. There is a psychological concept for this called self-handicapping.
Self-handicapping. Okay, what's that?
It works like this. If I don't really try, I can't really fail. Or if I wait until the very last minute and I have to rush through it and it turns out mediocre, well, I have a built-in excuse.
The classic, I pulled an all-nighter defense.
Yes. You could say, well, I only had 2 hours to work on it. If I had a full week, it would have been a masterpiece. You didn't really fail. You just ran out of time. It protects your ego from the true test.
Oh, wow. That hits them. It's self-sabotage as a way to lower expectations for yourself and for everyone else. So we basically shoot ourselves in the foot so we can blame the wound instead of our running ability.
That is a vivid way to put it, but yes, it's a buffer for your ego. But the cost is that it keeps you paralyzed. You're just staring at the screen and the cursor's blinking, and every blink feels like a judgment. It's asking, are you good enough? Are you smart enough? And the fear of the answer being no keeps you from typing a single word.
That is heavy. So that's fear of failure. What about the second horseman? Overwhelm.
This is the busy adult persona we talked about. This is for the listeners who are managing projects, running households, maybe caring for aging parents. The sheer volume of input creates a wall.
I love the analogy the source used for this. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose versus a garden hose.
It's perfect, isn't it?
Right.
When you are drinking from a garden hose, you can manage the flow, you can take a sip, you're in control.
Yeah.
But when you are standing in front of a fire hose of responsibilities, 100 new emails, constant Slack messages, back-to-back meetings, deadlines, text messages from your spouse, notifications from the school app, it just knocks you down.
It's a physical feeling. You feel it in your chest, this tightness.
You do. And when the nervous system gets overloaded like that, it shuts down. It enters a freeze state. You can't even open your mouth to try to drink. You just collapse under the pressure.
It's paralysis by volume. I feel like this happens to me when I open my inbox after a long weekend. There are so many things that need my attention that I don't do any of them. I just stare for a minute and close the tab.
That's the freeze response. Your nervous system is overloaded. It perceives the volume of work as a genuine threat, so it shuts off your ability to engage. It's not logical, it's biological. It's the same mechanism that makes a possum play dead when it sees a predator.
My inbox is a predator. Got it.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, horseman number 3, perfectionism. Now, I know a lot of people wear perfectionism as a badge of honor. Oh, I'm just such a perfectionist, I care too much. But the source frames this as a very negative, delaying tactic.
Perfectionism is the enemy of done. And in the context of procrastination, perfectionism is almost always a mask for insecurity. The thought process is, if I can't do this perfectly right now on the first try, then I won't do it at all.
It's that all or nothing thinking. It's black and white, there's no gray area.
There's no room for process. It stops ideas before they even start. You have an idea for a podcast or a book or a business plan, but as soon as you start thinking about it, you realize the first draft is going to be messy. It's not going to be perfect.
The first draft is always messy. That's why it's a draft. It's supposed to be.
It has to be. But the perfectionist brain can't handle that mess. the mess feels like failure. So it says, I'm not ready yet. I need to do more research. I need to buy a better laptop first. I need to take another online course.
I need to clean my desk so I have the perfect, pristine environment before I can even start.
Exactly. It's what the sources call productive procrastination. You are doing things around the task to feel like you're making progress, but you're actually avoiding the messy, vulnerable work of creating something imperfect.
You are polishing the tools instead of building the house.
That's it. And I think that concept, productive procrastination, is so dangerous because you feel busy. You are busy. You're organizing your files. You're creating a new color-coded spreadsheet, but you aren't moving the needle on the thing that actually matters.
You are spinning your wheels, and deep down, you know it, which is where the guilt creeps back in.
Always.
And finally, the fourth horseman. This one is sneaky. Unclear next steps.
This is the silent killer of productivity. We touched on this with mental messiness. This is when your to-do list is full of vague, giant projects instead of concrete, actionable tasks.
Can you give us an example of the difference? What does a bad to-do list item look like versus a good one?
Okay. A bad, vague task is plan the marketing strategy.
Yeah, that's on my list right now, and it's terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's huge.
Yeah.
It involves research, writing, budgeting, meetings, getting approvals. When you see plant marketing strategy on your list, your brain just goes, error, too big, does not compute. I don't know where the entry point is.
Right. It's a whole project, not a single task.
Exactly. A concrete, clear next step is email the graphic designer to ask for their current rates. That is a binary action. You can either do it or not do it. It takes 2 minutes. There's no ambiguity.
Why do intelligent people get stuck here so often? You'd think we'd know how to break things down into smaller pieces.
Intelligent people often overcomplicate the path forward. They see all the variables at once. They see steps 1 through 50 simultaneously.
Oh, that's me.
And because they can see the whole complex web, they get paralyzed by the sheer size of it. They don't just see step 1, they see the implications of step 1 on step 47.
So they are playing 4D chess against themselves.
And losing. Because they never make the first move. They are trying to solve problems that haven't even happened yet. They're worrying about the roof design before they've even poured the foundation.
Okay, so we have the four horsemen: fear of failure, overwhelm, perfectionism, and unclear next steps. I want everyone listening to just take a second and think, which one of these is in the room with you right now? Which one is sitting on your shoulder?
And it might be a mix of them. Often, unclear next steps feeds directly into a sense of overwhelm, which then triggers the fear of failure. It's a toxic cocktail.
Great, a whole party of them. So we understand the problem. It's emotional, it's structural. Now let's talk about the trap that keeps us stuck there. Section 3 of our deep dive is all about the motivation myth.
Ah, yes. This is one of the most pervasive lies we tell ourselves. I just need to get motivated. Or I'm waiting for inspiration to strike.
I see this all the time. I'm just not in the right headspace. I'm waiting for the vibe to be right.
Here is the hard truth from the psychology of procrastination. Motivation is not a lightning bolt that strikes you while you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix.
It feels like it should be, though.
It feels like it, but it's not. Motivation is a feeling that follows action. It does not precede it.
Wait, say that again? Motivation follows action.
Yes. We think the order of operations is motivation leads to action, which leads to a result. We think we need to feel good in order to start. But actually, the neurochemistry works like this. Action leads to a result, which then creates the feeling of motivation. You have to start moving before you feel like moving.
That is so counterintuitive. We treat motivation like it's fuel for the car. I can't drive the car. I have no gas.
But in this analogy, the car generates its own fuel as it moves. It's like a hybrid that charges its own battery while it's braking or just rolling downhill. The hardest part, the part that requires an external push, is getting the car rolling from a dead stop.
This brings us to that physics analogy we saw in the notes. Static friction versus kinetic friction. I haven't taken a physics class since high school, so help me out here.
Don't worry, it's simple and it's a perfect metaphor. Think about pushing a really heavy box across a warehouse floor.
Okay.
The absolute hardest part is getting it to budge from a standstill. That initial push requires the most force. That's you having to overcome static friction.
Right. You're grunting, you're pushing with all your might, and nothing is happening for a second. It feels impossible.
But once it starts sliding, it's much, much easier to keep it moving. That's kinetic friction. Procrastination is the battle against static friction. The box is stopped, and you are standing there just looking at it.
And this is where overthinking comes in, right? Because while we are standing there staring at the box, which is the task, we are just thinking about how heavy it is.
Exactly. We overthink the difficulty. We do this thing called effective forecasting, which is a fancy term for predicting how bad we're going to feel while doing the task.
And we are always wrong.
We're always terrible at it. The longer you analyze a problem without acting on it, the heavier and more difficult it feels in your mind. You build it up. You catastrophize. This is going to take all day. This is going to be so hard. I'm definitely going to mess it up.
We psych ourselves out. We create a monster under the bed.
We do. And by the time you actually start, the mental monster you've created is 10 times scarier than the actual task. But if you had just pushed the box immediately without thinking, you would have realized, oh, this is heavy, but it's movable.
So if we can't wait for motivation to strike, and we can't think our way out of the problem, how do we actually move the box? How do we overcome that static friction? This leads us to the toolkit, the strategies. And the first one has a name that I absolutely love, the stupid small steps.
I love this one too, and the name is important. We aren't just talking about small steps. We are talking about steps that are so small, so ridiculously tiny, that your brain cannot possibly object to them.
Stupid small, like insultingly small.
Yes. The goal here is to bypass the amygdala. Remember, the amygdala is the guard dog that detects threats. When you say, write the proposal, the amygdala goes nuts. It barks. Threat, hard, scary, run away.
So we need to sneak past the guard dog.
Exactly. And you sneak past it by making the first step so non-threatening that the guard dog just stays asleep. It doesn't even notice you.
Okay, give us an example of a stupid small step versus just a regular small step.
Okay, let's say you need to go for a run, but you're procrastinating on it. A regular small step might be go run for just 10 minutes. For a procrastinator, that still might be too much friction. Your brain says, 10 minutes is still hard. It's cold outside. I have to find my good playlist.
Yeah, I would absolutely talk myself out of that. I'd say, I'll do it tomorrow when it's warmer.
But a stupid small step is put on your left running shoe.
Just the left shoe.
Yes, the left shoe. That's the whole task. Can you put on your left shoe? Is that scary? Is that overwhelming? Does it threaten your ego or your identity?
It's ridiculous. It takes 5 seconds.
Exactly. It would be harder not to do it. But here's the magic. Once you have the left shoe on, the friction to put on the right shoe is almost zero. And once you have both shoes on, the friction to stand up and walk outside is much, much lower. You are tricking your brain into motion.
It's like a line of dominoes. You just need to flick the first tiny domino, and the rest will follow.
Yes. Let's take another example for office work. If you need to write a difficult report, don't write the introduction on your list. That might still be too heavy.
Especially if you don't know what you're going to say yet. The blank page is terrifying.
Right. The stupid small step is open a blank document and name it report draft. That's it. You are allowed to close it immediately after if you want to.
But you usually won't.
You usually won't because of a psychological principle called the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect, what is that?
It's a phenomenon that says our brains hate unfinished tasks. Once a task has been opened, once that mental loop is open, the brain has a persistent nagging desire to close it. By opening the document and giving it a name, you have opened the loop. Your brain will now want to write the first sentence just to resolve that little bit of cognitive tension.
So by doing the stupid small step, you aren't just starting physically, you are engaging a deep psychological drive to finish things.
Exactly. You are hacking your own brain's desire for closure.
I love this application for creative work too. It lowers the barrier to entry to zero. We often keep the barrier to entry so high because we think the work should be hard. We think we need to sit down for a perfect, uninterrupted 4-hour block of deep work. But that pressure is precisely what keeps us from starting at all.
Lower the bar. Make it stupid easy. Make it so easy you literally cannot fail.
This reminds me of a strategy I use for cleaning my apartment. I tell myself, I'm just going to pick up one sock off the floor. Just one. And usually 20 minutes later, the whole room is clean.
That is the stupid small strategy in action. You engaged the gears. You overcame the static friction.
Okay, so that helps us start. But what helps us keep going without freaking out? The next strategy in the source material is about reframing our goals, specifically using time limits versus outcome goals.
This is huge, especially for the perfectionists and the overwhelmed among us. Most of the time, we set outcome goals. I must finish this report today. I must clean the entire house.
And that creates immediate, intense pressure. If I don't finish it, I've failed for the day.
Right. And it also makes the task feel endless and undefined. If you don't know how long finishing the report will actually take, your brain anticipates endless suffering. I could be here all night. I'm going to miss dinner. This is my whole Saturday. Gone.
So what's the alternative to that?
The time limit solution. You've probably heard of this as time boxing or the Pomodoro method. You set a timer. You don't commit to finishing the task. You only commit to working on the task for a specific short amount of time.
So not finish the report, but I will work on this report for 15 minutes.
Yes. And this works because it creates a finite, predictable container for the pain or boredom. Your brain says, okay, I hate working on this report. It's scary, but I can survive anything for 15 minutes. 15 minutes is not forever.
It makes it manageable. It's a light at the end of the tunnel before you even enter the tunnel.
Exactly. It dramatically reduces the emotional heaviness. And here is the magic connection back to momentum. Usually when the timer goes off after 15 minutes, the fear is gone. You're in it. You've achieved a state of flow, and you often just keep working.
But even if you stop, you've done 15 minutes, which is infinitely more than the 0 minutes you were going to do.
Correct. And you've proven to your brain that the task wasn't fatal. You are slowly retraining your nervous system to see that the work isn't a threat. This is basically a form of exposure therapy for your work anxiety.
I feel like this is so important for those big undefined projects, the plan, the marketing strategy type tasks. If you just chip away at it in 15-minute blocks, eventually it gets done. But if you wait for that perfect mythical 8-hour block to finish it, you'll never, ever start.
Consistency beats intensity every single time. We chronically overestimate what we can do in one heroic day and dramatically underestimate what we can do in a month of small, consistent 15-minute chunks.
Okay, so we have stupid small steps to get us started. We have time limits to manage the pressure while we work. Now let's talk about how to stop having this internal battle every single day. Section 6, building action into routines.
This is all about removing decision fatigue. Every time you have to choose to do the hard work, you are spending willpower. Should I do it now or after lunch? Or maybe I'll feel more like it tomorrow.
And usually the answer is later. Always later.
Right, because now is always painful, and later is always an abstract, magical time when you'll have more energy and motivation.
Yeah.
If you have to consciously decide when to do the scary thing, you will likely lose that negotiation with yourself.
So how do we stop negotiating with ourselves? It feels like a constant internal debate.
You systemize it. You build the action into a pre-existing routine so that it becomes a default behavior, not a choice you have to make.
Like brushing your teeth. You don't stand in the bathroom agonizing over whether you should brush your teeth. You don't weigh the pros and cons and wait for motivation. You just do it because it's what you do after you wake up.
Exactly. It's automaticity.
Okay.
So, to apply this to business or creative work, you might have a rule that says, I write for 20 minutes while my first cup of coffee brews.
Yeah.
No negotiation. It's just what happens when the coffee machine starts. It's part of the sequence.
You're anchoring the hard new task to an existing easy behavior. Coffee right.
Yes. This is often called habit stacking. You take a habit you already have and do reliably, like drinking coffee, and you stack the new desired behavior right on top of it.
Or, as soon as I open my laptop in the morning, I process 3 difficult emails before I open any other tabs. You make the hard stuff the gatekeeper to the easier, more distracting parts of your day.
And this really applies to that old concept of eat the frog,
Right.
doing the hardest thing first.
It does, but it's not just about doing it first. It's about doing it automatically first. If you do this scary thing at 8 a.m. every single day, you stop feeling 8 a.m. It just becomes part of the rhythm of your day, and you save all that precious mental energy you used to spend worrying about it, and you can put it into the actual work.
That's the dream, isn't it? To stop worrying and just do.
Okay, let's talk about a real-world scenario here. Let's say there's someone listening who has a side hustle idea. They want to start an Etsy shop selling their art. But they've been sitting on this idea for 6 months. They're stuck in the laziness myth. They just think they're flaky or not cut out for it. How do we apply this whole toolkit to that specific person?
That's a great example. So first things first, they have to stop calling themselves lazy. That label is toxic and inaccurate. They need to recognize that they're scared.
Okay, so step 1 is diagnosis.
Diagnosis. Maybe they're scared no one will buy their art, which is fear of failure. Maybe they look at Etsy and have no idea how to set up shipping profiles or calculate taxes, which is unclear next steps and overwhelm.
Okay, so we identify the horsemen. It's probably fear and unclear steps.
Right. So next we ignore the motivation. We don't wait to feel inspired to be a business owner. We look for a stupid small step.
What's the step? Make a product. No, that's way too big.
Way too big. The step might be, go to Etsy.com and click the register button. Or even smaller. Take out a piece of paper and sketch one idea for a product on a napkin.
I love it. Zero stakes, just a doodle.
Then you apply the time limit. I will spend 15 minutes tonight researching shipping costs. Not, I will figure out my entire global logistics strategy, just 15 minutes of reading.
Totally manageable.
And finally, you build it into a routine. Every Saturday morning before I check Instagram, I will spend 20 minutes working on one aspect of the shop. Maybe one week it's taking photos, the next week it's writing a description.
And suddenly you're moving. You aren't paralyzed anymore. The static friction is broken.
And 6 months from now, you have a shop. It might not be perfect, but it exists. Whereas if you kept waiting for the right time or for motivation, you'd still have nothing but a great idea and a pile of guilt.
It's so empowering because it takes all the drama out of it. Procrastination feels so dramatic. It feels like this epic battle between good and evil in our souls.
It does.
But the solution is actually very quiet and, frankly, kind of boring. It's just putting on the left shoe.
That is profound. The solution to high drama is low friction. Stop trying to fight the dragon, just sneak past it while it's sleeping.
The solution to high drama is low friction. I'm writing that down.
Chuckles. Please do.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've moved from blaming ourselves for being lazy to understanding the real emotional blockers: fear, overwhelm, perfectionism, ambiguity. We've debunked the motivation myth. And we've armed ourselves with a toolkit of stupid small steps, time limits, and routines.
It's a completely different and, I think, much kinder way of viewing your work and yourself.
Before we let our listeners go, let's give them a concrete action plan. Because we can't do a deep dive on procrastination and then just let people passively listen to it.
Absolutely not. That would be deeply ironic.
Here is your today assignment.
Right.
Right now, I want you to identify one lingering task, the one that's been making you feel guilty for days or even weeks.
The one that feels heavy. The
Yeah.
one that popped into your head as we were talking. You know the one.
Yes. Don't try to finish it. I want you to break it down to a stupid small step. Something that takes less than 2 minutes to complete.
Open the file, find the phone number, put your gym clothes on the bed, send the one-sentence email.
Exactly. Then set a timer for 10 minutes and just do that one tiny step and see where it goes. If you stop after 10 minutes, fine. You win. You did 10 minutes more than you were going to. If you keep going, you win even more.
Just engage the gears. That's the only goal.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you all with one final thought from our expert here. Something to chew on.
We talked about procrastination being a protection mechanism. So my final question to you is this. If you are procrastinating on something, what exactly are you trying to protect yourself from? Are you protecting yourself from the sting of failure, from the judgment of others? Or, and this is a sneaky one, are you protecting yourself from the responsibility of success?
That's a big one. Sometimes we are afraid to succeed because then people will expect more from us in the future. The bar gets raised.
Exactly. So ask yourself what you are defending against. And then ask yourself the second, more important question. Is that protection costing you the life you actually want to live? Because usually the thing we are most afraid to do is the very thing we most need to do.
Wow. Is the safety worth the cost of staying stuck? That is something to think about. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today.
It's always a pleasure.
Now, go put on your left shoe. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.